April 26, 1777. Danbury, Connecticut is burning. British troops are marching through the night. Warehouses are in flames and continental supplies are being destroyed. Smoke is clawing through the spring night. There are no cell phones, no telegraphs, no sirens, just horseback. And somewhere inside a farmhouse in New York's Hudson Valley, a 16-year-old girl is told, ride. Not a mile, not 5, but 40. Through forest roads, through mud, during a spring storm. Knocking on doors in the dark, wake up, the British are here. Her name is Sybil Ludington. She rode farther than Paul Revere, but you probably didn't learn her name in school. Tonight we fix that. If I say Midnight Ride, well, you might think of a song, but you're going to think of one man.
Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere.
Lantern light in a church tower.
1 if by land, and 2 if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be.
Hooves on cobblestone and a warning cry throughout the dark. The British are coming.
A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark.
That image comes largely from one source, a poem.
The fate of a nation was riding that night.
A poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in 1860 called Paul Revere's Ride. It opens with instructions, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. A signal in the North Church Tower. On April 18, 1775, British troops were preparing to march on colonial stores in Concord. 2 lanterns appeared. And according to the poem, Paul Revere mounted his horse, and he rode through the night. Through Medford, through Lexington, toward Concord, spreading the alarm. The countryside arises and the militia assemble. The first shots of the revolution are fired. The story is cinematic, and it's dramatic. It's memorable, but it's also not quite how it happened. The reality is, Paul Revere did not ride alone. He was part of an intelligence network. Another rider, William Dawes, was dispatched as well. And Revere didn't gallop through the town yelling that the British were coming. People then still considered themselves British. And stealth mattered. Patrols were everywhere. He did ride about 16 miles. He warned militia quietly door to door. But he never made it all the way to Concord. He was captured and detained and questioned. The lanterns were there as a backup in case Revere couldn't leave Boston. The famous version of the ride, the lone hero, the shouted warning, and the uninterrupted dash, well, those largely come from Longfellow's poem. A poem written decades later it was meant to stir up patriotism for the Civil War. Revere was brave, but he wasn't alone. And he wasn't the only one that wrote. 2 years later, in April 1777, British forces attacked Danbury, Connecticut. Their target was a stockpile of continental supplies. Flour, meat, uniforms, gunpowder. The town burns. News reaches a farmhouse in what's now Paterson, New York. Inside lives Colonel Henry Ludington. He commands roughly 400 militiamen, but they're scattered at their farms, in their fields, across the countryside. A messenger arrives exhausted. The British are advancing. The militia must assemble immediately, but Colonel Ludington can't leave. He must stay and organize. He has to muster whoever arrives. The roads are dark and the weather's turning, and the only person available to ride is his 16-year-old daughter, Sybil Ludington. It's raining, and the roads are muddy, slick, and deeply rutted. She mounts her horse and she rides. Not 16 miles, though. 40. Through Carmel, through Kent, and through other small villages. She rides through isolated farmsteads, where doors must be pounded with a stick. She rides through isolated farmsteads. There's no streetlights, no paved roads. There's no GPS. Just mud, darkness, and British patrols somewhere in the region. She rides through the night, and by dawn, nearly 400 men assemble. They march toward Danbury. They arrive too late to save supplies, but the engaged British forces on retreat. They're harassing and pressuring. They're forcing a difficult withdrawal. And Sybil, she writes home. There was no famous poet waiting to immortalize her. There's no sweeping 19th century narrative to elevate her ride into legend. Her story survived mostly through family accounts, through local stories and tradition. In 1961, the Daughters of the American Revolution commissioned a sculptor to create a bronze statue of Sybil on horseback. Today, replicas stand in New York, Connecticut, and Washington, D.C. But her story still sparks debate among some historians. Was it exactly 40 miles? Was every detail documented? Or was it amplified over time? Fair question, but here's what isn't debated. A teenage girl rode through the night in dangerous conditions to rally the militia during wartime. That alone is extraordinary. And George Washington did personally thank her. History chooses its symbols carefully. Paul Revere became a symbol because a poet needed one. Sybil Ludington didn't fit 19th century mold of historic storytelling, and she was female, so she faded. But revolutions aren't built by one writer alone, they're built by a network. They're built by families, by teenagers told to saddle up in the rain. Maybe the lesson isn't that one hero replaces another. Maybe it's that the spotlight has room for more than one writer. If Paul Revere represents a legend, Sybil Ludington represents the overlooked. And sometimes the overlooked ride farther. And here on the observation deck, we question everything, even the stories we thought we knew. Hey, this is Kim. Thanks for watching this far. If you would be so kind as to like and subscribe, it tells the algorithm that storytelling like this truly matter. This is going to be added to our Badass Women in History. The playlist will be linked down below, and thanks again.